Good morning, everyone. My name's Doug Manning. I'm the biologist with New River Gorge National Park and Preserve, Gauley River National Recreation Area, and Bluestone National Scenic River. I'm incredibly disappointed not to be there in person with you all today, but my flight got canceled and I was not going to be able to make it in time for this presentation, so we're stuck with the virtual presentations. That said, I'm really excited to talk to you all about some of the work we're doing on the Riverscour Prairies of the national parks in southern West Virginia, some of the monitoring work that's been going on, and the active management that we're doing to protect these habitats. I wanted to start off also by acknowledging our partner at the Eastern Rivers and Mountains Network, Stephanie Perlis, who handles most of the actual monitoring, data collection, data analysis, and it has contributed significantly to this presentation. So we're located here in the unglaciated Appalachian Plateau region of the state. The tops of the plateau tend to be represented by oak hardwood forests, but the parks really only own these steep river gorges. And when we take a look at where we should focus our management from a biodiversity standpoint, protecting that biodiversity, what really pops out is this riparian zone. So these areas have tons of state rare species, globally rare plant communities, a federally listed plant that I'll get to a little bit more later. And just to kind of put it in perspective, despite only encompassing about 2% of the land area in the park, these riparian zones account for or represent 65% of the botanical diversity in our park. So it's really important for us to be focused on how to protect a lot of these vulnerable species that occur in an area that's really gets quite a bit of use from the public. So some of you might be scratching your heads and saying, really? Prairies on the river? This is what we think of when we see a prairie. This is Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve in Kansas here. But when we take a look at some of these river scour communities, we'll actually see a lot of these warm season grasses like big blue stem, Indian grass, switchgrass, well represented along these riparian corridors. And this is really unique and important for us. We don't have, in our parks, we don't have native grasslands aside from these riparian scour areas. So why are these river scour prairies such biodiversity hotspots? One reason is the geomorphology of these sites. These sites actually, a lot of them formed potentially thousands of years ago and appear to be really more stable than you'd expect. They tend to occur in curves in the river, and there's actually a study not that long ago in the Obed River that looked at these alluvial bars and their stability over time and found that they can be stable for literally thousands of years potentially. So that allows these communities to develop over time and maintain the specific habitat that's required for these species. The other reason, and this is probably one of the biggest reasons, is actually disturbance. Periodic flooding removes a lot of the woody vegetation, principally the trees, from the site, and is really, really essential for maintaining this open habitat for these sun-loving species. So we do have some issues with dams on these rivers that is cause for concern, and that's part of why we monitor and look at potentially doing active management or maybe working with the Army Corps of Engineers on some of these dams and figuring out what kind of disturbance these sites need to be able to maintain themselves and if we can facilitate that. And then also just the microhabitats that exist in these sites. There are a lot of places where there's either cobble bars that have very little substrate that for woody plants to establish and grow, or this is an example of some bedrock actually where really just a little bit of soil is accumulated in there and has allowed, or the plants that have colonized the site have really locked that soil in there and created microhabitat for themselves. I did want to take a quick moment to touch on the importance of these sites from a pollinator perspective. Everyone's, of course, aware of the global declines in pollinator species, but these sites not only provide a lot of flowering plants that are important for pollinators, but they're relatively connected sites as well. Though these Riverscour sites are not continuous along our rivers, they do occur in ways and such that you have some elements of habitat connectivity for these species that have this critical habitat need.